Okay, so for complex number, it's a combination for our real number and one part of the number that you never learned before. So you can see this kind of number, they will have an I here. Okay, so I believe you that you see a lot of complex number in the video already. It will become 3 plus 2i, so 3, 2 are real number. But the I, what is the I here? So we start from beginning, complex number. Complex number denoted as C. So we can write it in standard form. What's mean by standard form? It will start with the real part and the imaginary part. So the part in front here, we call it real part. And then the BI at the back here is imaginary part. So for imaginary part, they have an I here. I, we call it imaginary unit. So for example, for the complex number, 2 minus 3i, real part will be 2. Imaginary part will be negative 3i. So what is the A here? A is a 2 here. What's a B here? B is the number for the imaginary part. So the number for imaginary part here will be your B, which is negative 3. Okay, so you have to be careful here. You have to clear it part together with the I. If you want the B here, means the number for the imaginary unit, the number inside the real part, the number inside this imaginary part, which is negative 3. Okay, so for, let's say, a complex number, negative 3i, so real part, do we have real part? We don't have any number in front here or after that, right? So we don't have any number without I1. Real part, real number, we don't have any real number here. So real part, 0. So what's your A? A also 0. Imaginary part, negative 3i. So B is negative 3. So when we see this case, means this is a pure imaginary number. We don't have any real part, means it doesn't mix with the real number. So it does have imaginary part. So this kind of complex number, we call it pure imaginary number. So let's say for this number z equals to negative 3, we notice that we don't have any I here anymore. So the real part is negative 3. And then imaginary part we don't have. A is negative 3, B is 0. So for this, is it a complex number? This is not a complex number. This is not a complex number. It's just a real number. It's just a real number of negative 3. A real number of negative 3. So we can say complex number is a bigger number that involves your real number and that will have imaginary part. So if your R is here, means your complex number is getting bigger. This is the scope that you never see it before. Normally we just do until real number in our secondary. So now we involve the number that you haven't seen before, which is complex number. So this is not, we can say negative 3 only is a real number. So negative 3 is an element of R. Okay, so what is I actually? What is I? So you can try to do some experiment here. When you press your square root 5, what do you get? Do you have your calculator with you? So you press the square root 5, come out a
2.236.067.
Yes.
977.
And then the decimal is not nice, right? So we can revise back. Actually, this 5 is a category of real number under irrational number. Okay, so if you can test, if you want to press square root negative 1, you can get square root negative 1 here. It come out a max error, right? Because your calculator setting here just a real number. Your calculator setting in your calculator there, they just show your real number. They didn't show you complex number. So therefore, when you press square root negative 1, they will come out max error. Even you press square root negative 9, it also max error, cannot count already. Cannot count already. So all these complex number, square root negative 3, negative 3, square root negative 2, complex number. So how we change it to complex number? So how we change this number to the standard form? Like we write here, real part plus imaginary part. So square root of negative 1 actually is your imaginary unit, which is I. So when we get square root of negative 9, we can split the square root negative. We can split it 9 and negative 1, which is equals to square root 9 times square root negative 1. At least square root 9 we can get 3. Then square root negative 1 is an imaginary unit, which is 3i. So we can get a complex number, a pure complex number without real part. Okay, so again, this one, square root 16. Yes, this one, square root 16 is our real number. We'll get 4. But square root negative 5, you get max error. Means that will be your complex number. Okay, so how we change it? We are going to put square root 5 times with square root negative 1. We take out the imaginary unit, which is I equals to square root 1. So after we take out the imaginary unit, I is square root negative 1. Then we can build out our complex number in standard form. So this is 4 plus square root 5 I. Therefore, here we can notice that our A, our real part, A is 4. Imaginary part is square root 5i, but the B is square root 5 only. Alright, so because B is the place for the numbers A plus B, I. So what's your B? Square root 5. Part, square root 5i. Okay, so we can continue. How about square root 3 and square root negative 12 times it together? So we can split it first. Square root negative 3 will be square root 3 times square root negative 1. Meanwhile, for square root negative 12, we can do it square root 12 times square root negative 1. So this one is square root 3i. This one is square root 12i. And then square root 3 and square root 12, they can times it together. It gives you 6i squared. Okay, it gives you 6i squared. So what is I squared? What do you need to remember here? What is I squared? So we can go for this part. Where I start from square root negative 1. When we get I squared, means square root negative 1 will be squared. So after we square the square root, means square root and square can be cancelled off. Actually, I squared is negative 1. Okay, so what is I cube? I cube, we can do it as I times I squared. So I times negative 1, we get back negative I. So what if I power of 4? So we can split it like I squared times I squared to get I power of 4. We use the category here. We use the speciality here. I squared, we get back negative 1. I squared, we get back negative 1. So we use the category of I squared speciality here to help us simplify our unit. So when we get I4, I squared times I squared, we didn't choose I1 and I cube because I cube I still have imaginary unit. We choose this one. I squared with I squared means negative 1 times negative 1, we get back 1. So this is the thing we have to remember for our imaginary unit for our part 2. So after we know this, means that this question we can simplify some more. I squared is -1. So go back to the answer of 6 only. Okay? So for this 3 times 12, you can press your calculator, they can give you back 6. Or you don't want to press your calculator, we can work it out. So when we work out, it will be like this. 3 times 12, it will be 36. 36 means square root 36, you get back 6. So this is how we get 6 here. I times I, we get I squared. Okay, so one more for this. 2 for I, 2I power 4 means 2 will power 4, I will power 4. So 2 will power 4, after 2 power 4, you'll get 16. And then I power 4, straight away we can see what we remember here. I squared is -1, so I4 is 1. So we can simplify our imaginary unit operation here. We get 16. Of course, when they give you if I cube, then we use I cube. Let's say I give you one more example here. Okay, so one more example here. Let's say I want you to simplify 2I cube. How is it? It will be 2 power of cube, I power of cube. So this one will 8. I cube is -I. So let's say, see, I cube is -I. So will give us -8I. Okay, so this is a operation for imaginary unit.